Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Wherever you are, I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
But I'm not prejudiced.
Of course you're not. Nobody thinks they're prejudiced. But where do you think you learned to think?
And where do you think you learned that the word prejudiced and being that is wrong? It's your prejudice against prejudice.
That's right.
I suppose we should talk about listening first
I
because
think we should
there's so much that gets people thinking in the title alone
yes.
That listening is key.
So here's the thing. Listening, when you truly listen, will pull you into your life, into your experience of living, into the current moment. But see, we think so much. We think about everything. We have thoughts, they're automatic. If I say, don't think about pink, you will think about pink. If I say, don't think about pink porcupines, you'll probably come up with something between a cross between a pink and a porcupine. The thing is this, your mind is a computer that's on scan all the time to see what it agrees with and what it disagrees with, what it likes and doesn't like, what it wants and doesn't want. Listening is, our definition, of course, is non-judgmentally hearing what someone else says from their point of view. That's all it is. And by the way, if it's their point of view, they can't really be wrong. It may not agree with your point of view, but it's not a wrong point of view. It's their point of view. So it is possible to listen to another person's point of view, whether you like it or not, and actually hear what they say. Interestingly enough, if you don't follow thoughts about what they're saying and get lost in seeing whether you agree or disagree, you get pulled into the current moment of your life. And that's what this is all about. Transformation happens when you fall into the current moment of your life. And you can't think yourself there. See, that's the paradox in it all. Thinking takes you out of the moment. Unless, of course, you're working on a mathematical equation where your thought processes are locked into that equation, and then it might bring you into the moment.
Yeah, Shai is talking about listening. I imagine that the majority of our listeners to this podcast are return listeners. Like you've either been to our seminars, you've read things of ours, or you've been a listener to the podcast. So you've heard us
talk about listening
in the past and that we finish each other's sentences. And I imagine from time to time, if not as a regular intersection with your life these days, you have the awareness that you can hear another person from their perspective without judging what you hear, simply bringing awareness to it. But I would imagine that you don't afford yourself the same courtesy. Whereas,
what do you mean by that?
You have thoughts go by and you either believe them to be you, so therefore you don't notice them, it's just truth, or you judge yourself for having those thoughts rather than simply notice them and notice how they change from environment to environment.
Well, that's our anthropological approach. You know, we look at life as though we're anthropologists looking to see how it is that we actually function in life without judging what we discover. If you can see the way you're operating without judging yourself for being that way, those ways of being no longer run your life.
Now,
potentially,
I want to give two separate potential thought process streams I've had in my past. Sean and I used to do a significant amount of work in California. We haven't done in-person courses there in quite some time. But one of the things I often noticed when we stepped off the plane, I instantaneously perceived myself and my thoughts as being 10 or 15 pounds overweight. It was like the whole weight conversation came flooding in for me in that environment. And I became savvy that my thought processes changed that way, so that I didn't have to spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, adjusting my clothes, and actually believing that that thought process was true. Now, alternately, Shai and I, in more recent years, have traveled down to the Bahamas. The body types of a lot of the individuals there are really curvy.
Large.
The women and the men, but in particular, if I'm talking about myself, the women are large busted, large hipped, large booties, and they walk around with a regal sense of pride for having that body shape. So it's always an interest to me to see how I register things differently. And it comes from wherever it comes from, including my background, what I grew up around. If you notice how you've been enculturated, how you perceive things, and you don't make it mean anything, life becomes just this incredible adventure.
Well, you know, our first book was called Working on Yourself Doesn't Work, a book about instantaneous transformation. And we sold that book to McGraw-Hill, and they changed the title somewhat and made it more about
The 3 simple ideas that will instantaneously transform your life.
like that.
It's a mouthful.
And that's not quite the truth of it all. The truth is that when you stop working on yourself, you know, and if you notice, if you look at a Zoom seminar, anything on Zoom, don't you have attention on yourself and how you look? And if your hair is just right?
I have one other example of a recent prejudice
What's that?
that showed up for me. A few days ago, I went for a walk and I went to one of our local consignment stores. And when I went in, I tried on a few things and I found this dress that I thought would be really fun for summer and really fun for our courses in Costa Rica. It's very lightweight, has a different hemline than I normally like. So I had a prejudice that those hemlines never work for me, and it looked really good on me.
Was it longer or shorter?
That was shorter. You haven't seen it yet?
No, I haven't.
And when I took it to the counter, there was a young gal behind the counter in her 20s with purple hair, lots of piercings, all sorts of tattoos. And she said, "Oh, I tried on that dress. And it just, I was too fat in it." So I said, "Now I'm feeling really skinny because this dress fit me." And she was smaller than I am. And she started talking about how she doesn't want to buy things now unless they're absolutely perfect, because she wants to leave it for other people. And I said, "I'm so glad you did that, because I really like this dress, but look, it's the right color. If it had worked for you, it would have matched your hair." And we had this really fun conversation. I registered my automatic ideas about how she looked, and then I allowed that to just flow through, and I met the person, and we had the most friendly, dare I say, intimate exchange. It was lovely. And if you don't beat yourself up for what are the recordings in your head, you can just let them go by. And
well, if you let them go by, interestingly enough, they let you alone. They don't run your life.
And by the way, I liked her hair color. It was a really nice shade of lavender.
Well, that's nice.
Let's take our first guest, shall we?
Sure.
Hey, Thomas.
We don't have to worry about your hair color, Thomas.
Hello, Ariel and Chaya. This is Thomas from Allschwil in Switzerland.
Hi.
I want to talk about my prejudices I have, like everybody.
What prejudices do you have?
I think, or I thought I'm over my prejudices and I know them quite well.
Yes.
Recently, I realized I have these, let's say, little prejudices every day, which come up automatically.
How cool is that?
Like somebody is walking in town with a bottle of beer, and I think that's must be an addict or something.
Wait, I missed that.
Well, first of all, you wouldn't see somebody in the US walking with a bottle of beer because it's not legal. So, but if you see someone walking by, you automatically think the worst. Like they're not just drinking a beer, they're an addict.
Yeah, right. Especially in daytime.
Mhm.
You know, that's very interesting. We were in the airport coming back from
From the Humber course we did in the spring,
yeah, we went to
and we were in Cologne.
Cologne. That's where I was
And we
trying
got
to
there
go.
at like 4:30 in the morning
And there were all these people
with these giant
steins
beers.
of beer
The beer
in the
place,
airport
they-
at 4 o'clock in the morning.
and they were all happily drinking. You know, it's
It's
just
a breakfast beverage.
different culture.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm drinking milk and coffee for breakfast, no beer. So,
Coffee. Oh,
Do you
uh,
drink coffee?
prejudice against coffee drinkers, prejudice against tea drinker, anything
yeah,
that's not me, not my habits, and sometimes my habits I have prejudices against.
mm,
What are prejudices? They're ideas formed before you had all the facts.
yeah, right.
They're actually handed down from the previous generations.
Mm,
I grew up in a family that believed that drinking early in the morning was not a good idea.
yes, of course, they never did. Yeah,
They never did.
yeah,
So it's your idea that that's a bad idea. But for somebody who grew up in a family where beer in the morning was normal, that's normal. What's wrong with you?
yeah,
So, what if you could let go of these ideas about how things ought to be and you start living your life and discovering what is rather than what ought to be?
Well,
mm,
when you said I'm starting to notice these little prejudices, and I'm like, how cool is that? Because when you see them, you don't have to be owned by them. If you don't see them,
if you just see them, they are over. But if you have a conversation with yourself about them, and sometimes the conversation goes, "Oh, look how good I'm doing. I'm not even complaining about my prejudice for early drinkers."
mm,
I mean, have a prejudice about early drinkers. That's just so outside my reality. It's not anything that happened in. I do not recall my father or mother ever having a beer. It wasn't their beverage of choice. And so it's not something I saw. So when we walked through the airport, I held up my wrist with a watch and I took a picture with them drinking in the background with the time on my watch because I thought it was so fascinating. It was just so different.
What do you mean by when you notice them, they are over?
When I
In my case, they keep coming back all the time.
That's yes,
But do you think they're good thoughts or bad thoughts?
I think there are bad thoughts.
well, anything you resist persists, grows stronger, and keeps coming back.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
We see if you just saw them for what they are, without the good or bad, they're over. But when
Yeah.
you put good or bad on anything, it
Mm,
gets stuck right where you put it.
But I'll tell you something else that occurs to me. You know, when I register that I have automatic responses, say, to how a person dresses or how they've dyed their hair or how they've pierced their bodies or their tattoos or different things like that. If it runs through as automatic, when I turn on my computer, it goes bong.
mm,
It's the startup. I have startup thoughts while meeting people. If I'm being hard on myself on that particular day, then I'm going to judge that startup bong. I mean, I may not always have them, but I think I do. I think they're like micro registrations of how that system perceives people.
Well, what if that system is a survival system and it's kept your whole family line alive via all the centuries and millennium to today?
Because
So
if you can register other, you register danger and what might
be a threat to your survival. And
Yeah.
so those thoughts have been of value because they've kept your family line alive long enough for you to be born.
That's a
But
good way to see it. Yeah, right.
I got to tell you something, Thomas. It's been my experience with you today that you're so genuine and so real and so Thomas, and you're not picking on yourself.
even how you laughed at yourself about holding your thoughts is bad. That's very fun.
See, so I really feel like a lot's happening for you. And you know, if you allow yourself to enjoy being you, it'll get only better. And I don't mean better in good, bad. I mean better in your experience of living will be more satisfying and more fulfilling. And I don't even know the word more fits in there. See, because it's either satisfying or it's not. It's fulfilling or it's not. It's not more. More is in the category of change, which is about time and it's about getting somewhere. You're already a transformed being, my friend. And that's the truth of it. And
That's
I
good to hear. Thank
so
you.
appreciate who you are and have always been, but you didn't know back when.
Yeah.
Because then you were really your thoughts.
You know, I'm flashing on you in Costa Rica. I recall there was a day somebody came across a sloth that was crossing the paved driveway.
Yeah,
And
right.
you were there as well, or they called you over. I'm not sure how it happened because I wasn't there. But you took these amazing pictures. First, it looked kind of like a dust mop from a distance, like somebody dropped a rag, and then you get close and you see it. And then there are these fantastic pictures you took of the sloth in a tree. You know, they were magnificent. Now, we've been all trained to be prejudiced against sloth. It's one of the deadly sins, you know, being lazy. But you're also capable of seeing what is and actually taking a picture. You know, we spoke to Dagmar last week about Nixon or Nixon, the art of doing nothing, and she just sent us photos of her being able to relax and do nothing, and how a cat came up to her and just snuggled at this hotel. And it's like, but when we were speaking to her, she had, you know, work is good, you know, sitting and doing nothing, lazy. We all have prejudices, not only about what we see, but about who we are and what we do and how much we produce. And I already think you're very, very skilled at letting go of your prejudices. You just haven't caught it yet. Because if you were going through your prejudices, you never could have made that sloth look so magnificent the way it really was.
And the fun thing is, even though it was very slow, it wasn't really easy to take the picture. It was somehow just the movements was somehow difficult to catch it.
But you managed.
I did, yeah.
Really a treat being with you today,
Yes.
Thomas. Really.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much for calling in.
Hey,
You want to hear about transformation?
Mhm.
We've got one of our listeners about to tell you about what's happened in their life out of listening to being here.
Mm.
This is Dave in Winnipeg, Canada. The transformational seminars have really, I want to say changed my life, but transformed my life in ways that I didn't even know were possible. The internal conflict that I've had in myself, it just dissipates as I'm able to look at it and let it be what it is, and then step into whatever the moment has for me now. And I invite you to join, listen to the podcasts, and attend the seminars. It really is a magical experience.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We invite you to our 2-hour events, our Living Made Easy seminars. We have one this Saturday and the following Monday, and you can check your upcoming schedule for everything we have going on with that. They are wonderful opportunities.
They're a possibility to fall into the current moment of your life without even trying, just by listening.
Yes, very interesting, engaging, wonderful people, and you could be one of them. Our upcoming weekend that we have is in person in New Jersey. Would you like to join us?
It's called Transformation.
Nope,
No,
close. You jumped right
create.
to-
Yeah, I went below it.
you did.
Creativity and intuition.
We have it written down. Reading.
You
Yes.
know, especially for someone who claims to be dyslexic.
Yes, you have that prejudice against yourself.
I do. It's a prejudice.
Next time I'll make it bigger.
Thank you.
Yes. The weekend seminar is happening on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, August 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
It's going to happen in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Yes, the New Jersey Performing Arts Center.
That's right.
It's a really lovely location. Hope you can make it.
Or is that, no, that's Newark, New Jersey.
Newark, New Jersey. You're correct.
Newark, New Jersey. Yes.
Transformational Time and Project Management, which is our next virtual seminar.
On Zoom is September 28th and 29th.
And then, of course, as we just mentioned with Thomas, Costa Rica for 2025 is happening next January. Registrations are well underway. You're very welcome to join us for 1 week or 2. It's an amazing adventure.
Into the discovering the magic of you.
Love it.
You know, discovering that you are not your thoughts about yourself. You are special.
If you want to get information about any of our seminars or blogs with us, videos with us, you can sign up for our newsletter. Everything we just mentioned is available to find out more about or to sign up about at transformationmadeeasy.com. Let's take.
I like that it's made easy. You know, for years, people have strived to find a way to live their lives directly in the moment rather than be lost in their thoughts about the future and worries about how it's going to turn out. We've discovered a technology, you and I, that allows people to easily discover the greatness that lives within them. But they have to be willing to be courageous, because it takes courage to discover that you are not, you're prejudiced against yourself, that you are better than you think you are, that you are in fact a genius.
I love that. Let's take Daniela.
Oh, my friend Daniela.
Welcome to being here, Danielle. Where are you today?
Today I'm in Sauerland, which is located in Germany, and it's a 2 hours drive northeast from Cologne.
Sauerland. Is the word sour the same as like sour, like pickles?
Yeah, yeah,
Do they make
Like
pickles there?
sauerkraut?
Yes.
and it is an area. I forgot the little village. I'm here for a holiday with Christian and Sophia, our daughter, and so yeah, we are in a very green area, and very relaxing. PM, the children can play outside in their horses and chicken and rabbits, and yeah, parents are relaxing and the children are playing together, and yeah, of course, yes.
Lovely.
Yeah, it does.
Nice.
Yeah, and when I arrived here, I thought my first thought was, oh, the people here are so different and so weird. And then today, when I joined this podcast, I thought, I think my prejudices were really talking loud.
Right.
Yes, yes. Different. But that's the point. Your mind is hardwired to register different. And that is truly how our ancestors survived.
But nowadays, things are changed. Back then, you had to fit into a tribe where if you were different, they'd get rid of you and you wouldn't survive. Nowadays, people can be different and they don't need a tribe or a village to survive in, because technology has allowed people to produce whatever they need as far as money to buy food and shelter and clothing. It's made it possible for you to really be yourself rather than try to fit into some script about how you're supposed to be. You know, I noticed yesterday, I don't know why it came up, but as I was driving home from the river that I was playing in fishing, I started thinking about the sexual orientation these days is so different than it was 50 or 75 years ago. It's okay to be interested in someone of the same sex rather than now you are deviant of some sort because you are or were interested. And I looked at my own conditioning and I am so hetero. You know, it's just, it's so strong in me that if I have a thought that finds a man attractive, I am the voice in my head gets very annoyed with me for being
for registering the attractiveness of that individual.
That's right. As if it's a threat to my identification, who I am. So we've got these prejudices that run in us. Now, Daniela, I'm 83 years old. I don't have to worry about hetero homo, you know? I still am intimate with my wife and regularly, actually. And for 83, that's pretty wild. Because
But you know, it's interesting, Shia.
tell me, I'm interested in what's interesting.
We have really close friends.
Of all ages?
Yes. But, you know, when last we saw Daniela was in Cologne, we were there with our friends Ralph and Arna. We were going to see their show. They have a theater.
Yes.
And they're married, and the show itself is always very campy and has lots of sexual overtones. Is very funny. It's a good thing it's funny because it's in German and we didn't understand the language, so we got to see all the visual jokes. And it's a different thing when you talk about how you self-identify. I think you're so far removed from it in your day-to-day life that you can interact with these two dear friends and not have to hold them at a difference to make that voice comfortable.
Right.
You don't have to have them be separate. They can hug and kiss and be together and hug
But-
you, and it's not.
But yeah, but part of me is still disturbed when they kiss. Okay.
Yeah, I get
If
that.
I'm honest, you know, there are these baked in prejudices that exist in me.
So when that happens, you just watch it go by.
Just watch it go by. You know, I looked back over maybe 15 or 16 years ago. We did a seminar in Hamburg, and there was a fellow there who had been straight for his whole life, and then discovered he was gay in his 60s or 50s. And I saw how I was inappropriate because I was uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I looked at, well, would I do that now? And the answer is probably maybe. But the reality is, if you see it, it loses its power over your life. If you judge it, you are entangled in it. It's like a web that holds you in place. And so that's all I have to say about that.
Hmm. Yeah, I noticed that, as I said before, in the beginning, it was like, oh, they're all different than me. And then I noticed more, oh, maybe I should be like that, or maybe I should be like this. And then I started to pick on myself.
Yes, that's very good.
Well, we're habituated to picking, whether on ourselves or others.
Yeah, who was talking about, somebody recently was talking about their idea of doing it was the correct, it was Julie, I believe.
Yes.
This morning.
We had a conversation with a friend of ours, and how she, after doing the course in Hamburg, had started to notice how she had a prejudice that was really baked in, that she could do everything better
Than anybody else.
and that she's now watched that go through with her husband, and watch him do things uninterrupted by her better ideas, and how effective he is and how incredible he is at doing things, where before it was always
When she lets him.
but she had to suspend that prejudice of, I can do it better, I know better, he's doing it different.
You
Different
don't
is
have
not as
anything
good.
like that, do you?
Oh no, but I'm so yeah, completely. I mean, so completely yes. And I'm so happy that you brought it up, because yeah, I have this also baked in myself.
I brought it up for you.
Thank you.
Well, we had a lovely
mean-
walk with you and Christian and Sophia, and I could tell that you guys haven't always, maybe some of the time, you haven't always come to consensus about how to interact with her, whether it's about discipline or eating habits, or how you relate to her at the table. Because we had a meal with you guys, and I think that can be a fun possibility for you now, because if you recognize you have the prejudice that your way is right, it's a setup for conflict.
Well, yes, but here's another little bit. See, you picked Christian, and you know better than anybody else. So you do really well.
Good job. Good job.
Good job. It's not a mistake that you picked him.
Yeah.
It was so funny. We had a Living Made Easy seminar the other day, and a woman came. I'm just going to give her a fake name. I'll say her name was Sarah. And Sarah had been doing online dating with somebody, and they had conversed back and forth, and then texted back and forth, and then spoke back and forth. And then they finally got together and met. And he's like, can I see you again next Sunday? And she said, didn't he notice I'm overweight? Like, she's so appalled at her image of herself. She was shocked that he
would find her attractive.
And I went for a walk with a friend of ours, Lenore. Shout out to you, Lenore. She's also one of the people who helps produce this show. And she'd been on that virtual seminar, and she said that Sarah, it was very funny when she said that the guy Sarah was dating was like, no, I didn't notice you were overweight. I noticed you were Sarah. You know, the people who see us, they see us. We see our prejudices.
You know, it's interesting. I went to college about 60 years ago. And
there's my prejudice. That's a long time.
That's a long time. And I remember taking an art history course. And in that course, there were different statues from different times in the past. And our prejudice about body type is current to the society we live in. There was this picture of a carving called the Venus of Willendorf. Are you familiar with her?
No.
Oh, she would be considered very fat by today's standards. Very overweight, put it that way. That's a more socially acceptable.
Well, it
term.
depends on how if you're being socially acceptable or not.
But anyway, her body type, if you get a chance, Google the Venus of Willendorf. She's
zoftic and
yeah.
sensuous, but not like a
not thin,
yeah,
not skinny, not muscular.
Yeah. I will do that.
Yeah. You might discover that you're very beautiful the way you are, and that you have prejudices that are baked in, coming from a culture that thinks you should be athletic.
whilst revering bread. When I'm in Hamburg, when we go to Germany,
we eat bread.
I am so attracted to bread. And of course, you've got the Italian version too. So you probably have pasta baked in there as well.
Yeah.
Hey, the game, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, what is it that Tom Jerry says?
He says, enjoy your life. Nobody else will.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And enjoy this
Yeah.
vacation you're on with Christian and Daniel and Sophia. Yeah.
And Daniela.
Daniela, right.
And Daniel. Right. There you go.
Hey, thanks for being with us today. I always like things and start laughing. It always lightens the whole.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being you, and thanks for being in our lives.
And as long as we're giving thanks for being our listener. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, you can. If you enjoyed this episode, you can share it with your friends. And again, you can sign up for our newsletter and subscribe to that. All of our courses, the newsletter, it's at transformationmadeeasy.com. Next week's podcast kind of flows right from this. Sensuality, as in your senses. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, I thought that in a sexual way.
You would. You're prejudiced.
Yes, I am. Damn, I'm a man. Okay.
Well, I don't know. You're just you. You are, and you happen to be a man. We'll be back next week.
Thank you.
We'll discuss that after.
Yes, thank you.
So come on back.
And don't miss being here.
Yeah, don't miss being here.